So when it comes to finding your long snapper, a couple big things we really want to cover here. First of all, here we go. What type of player should we be looking for? Basically, what we want to be doing is looking for any player that is interested in it. So typically, if we're looking for like the stereotypical body type, we have Luke Rhodes over here on the screen. He is a very good example of maybe what we're looking for, a linebacker build or tight end build, someone who's got a decent amount of athleticism, decent levers as far as arm length and ability to use their body, good body awareness in general. Now, that would be ideal. If you're a high school coach looking to just get somebody to do the job for you, you might just need to find somebody that has somewhat of an interest in it, okay? So I prefer this. The linebackers are a little bit better of a choice sometimes because not only are they decent athletes, but they can cover well down the field during a punt at the same time. So as far as size goes, high school level, I don't think it matters as much for the size. College level, it really depends on the scheme. When it comes to the pro level, you get more picky with teams are looking for more so about 6'2" to 6'4", 230 to 250, somewhere in there, and typically more of an athletic build. But as you get to lower levels, college or lower, the size really shouldn't matter because you aren't protecting as much or at all. The coverage unit, you could have a smaller snapper if they're getting downfield, at least making the returner make a move. That can be helpful. And you don't have to be a massive person to be able to make a tackle. Now, the next thing, do they need to be athletic? I would love for them to be athletic. At the same time, once again, kind of coming back to the same thing, beggars can't be choosers. Find somebody that wants to do the job for you. And as long as they're dedicated and a hard worker, they're going to put the time into it outside of football practice. They're going to find a coach. They're going to find opportunities to train. They're going to get in their backyard with their a family member or a net, and they're going to put the time into it. So that way, when you get to practice and you only have a couple minutes every day to work on it, they're actually able to see progress. So the desire, I think, is more important than the build or the size of the snapper that you're looking for right off the bat. So as far as expectations go, we already kind of talked about snap speed. We're looking to create, especially at the high school level, you might be looking for mid 7s to low 8s. At the college level, we're looking for low 7s to mid 7s. At the NFL level, to be honest, it's going to be about the same, low 7s to mid 7s for the snap speed at 15 yards. So if you're at 14 or 13 or 12 yards, your snap times are going to be different than that. So the typical distance is heels at 15 yards. So you can kind of see here that Jacob's snapping heels at 15 yards is where the punter's at. Jacob that snaps a really fast ball, he's probably low 7s, high 6s. Which isn't the common thing to have here. So I wouldn't expect an NFL snap speed from a high school player. A lot of things have to go into that. Their technique, their build, their athleticism really comes into play with that too. So we already kind of talked about stopwatch versus ball as well. I always prefer to watch the ball. Stopwatches, while they're useful and to give you an exact number to go off of and to chart guys and figure out who actually is better here, can be flawed. I could time the same snap 5 times and get 5 different times from it. Whereas if I'm watching the ball flight, if it's a flat bullet-like ball, I know it's usually a little more towards the low 7s range. If it's got a little bit of an arc to it, I know it's going to be mid 7s to low 8s. If it's got a big rainbow to it, I know it's too slow, and it's probably more so around the high 8s to 0.9 second snap time. So we just need to look at what's your priority? Are you charting them? Are you just looking for the snap speed? If it's ever a little bit more of a flatter path, you're probably in a good spot there. The next thing we're looking at is ball placement. Obviously, as a snapper, we're trying to hit the punter's hip every single time. That's just a good range because that way the punter can catch it and put it right on their drop table without having to catch the ball high and flip the laces down or change their hand position at all. So the hip shot is ideally what we're looking for. If you watch NFL games, though, not every single snap is put on the hip, whether that's the punter's preference or these guys they're humans. There's going to be mistakes that happen. They're not robots. So give your guys this goal of what you want to see and just understand that there's a little bit of wiggle room here, too, that obviously we don't want the ball in the dirt. We don't want the ball over the head. But there's going to be misses every once in a while. And allowing these guys to have a little bit of leeway and not such a rigid expectation can actually help them have more success down the road. So if you tell them it's got to be on the hip every single time, sometimes they focus so hard on that they screw up. Whereas if they're playing relaxed and loose and they understand the goal and they know how to create that outcome, they can play a little more loose and relaxed and create that result a little more frequently. Then the next thing we're looking at is technique. So there's a lot of different things when it comes to techniques. A couple things that we're going to talk about today involve that as well. Technique, there's a lot of information out there. So we want to make sure that we're deciphering through the opinions and also applying the science part of the snapping as well. So we want to make sure that we're always diving into, is this really the best way to be doing something? Now, when it comes to the grip is something that's extremely important. I like to tell my guys that I want them to be as much like a jugs machine as possible with their hands. So that means instead of grabbing the ball with one hand and guiding it with the other, if we imagine a jugs machine, we can see that those two wheels spin the same speed, they have the same surface area, and they're pressing into the ball with the same amount of force. So that's creating that drive of the ball out of the machine. If we can make that happen, it's going to really help with creating balance. So when it comes to your dominant hand placement, essentially there's a couple main landmarks we're looking for. I like to have guys take their peace sign of their dominant hand and place it straddling the white line. This just tells us that we're not too high on the ball or we're not too fat on the ball. It's a good landmark no matter the hand size to give us a good width of the ball to try to put our hand around. Now, after we have the peace sign straddling that white stripe, we want to make sure that we're internally rotating that right hand so that way we're causing our pocket between our palm and the ball to be off the ball. So essentially, we really only want the peace sign callus all the way to fingertip to be on that ball to create a roll and a flow through our peace signs that allow us to drive the ball out of our hands. If our hand were to collapse on the ball and we had the outside of the hand on the ball versus the inside, we're going to cause our hand to cut or try to spin through the ball. If I'm internally rotated and covering up this white stripe, I then can drive through the backside of the ball more and flick through that peace sign. So it's really important that we're focusing on that. Now, the next piece we're looking at for the dominant hand is making sure that this right thumb or dominant thumb is wrapped around the ball versus being tucked. If the dominant thumb is wrapped, it maintains this pocket, like shooting a basketball. I hold it only on my callus to fingertips, or like throwing a baseball, I only throw this ball with my fingers unless I'm going to throw a different kind of pitch, then I can hold it in my palm. But we're always trying to, as a snapper, throw a fast ball. So callus to fingertip, letting our fingers be relaxed. And if we drop that thumb and keep it wrapped, it maintains that pocket for us. So every time I hold this, I want to make sure I'm not squeezing it tight. I'm relaxing the hand so it can roll and flow from the backside of the ball to create a whippiness through that hand. That creates drive, it creates a flatter spiral, and allows you to not over grip with either hand, so we can create a little bit more symmetry between both of them. When it comes to the non-dominant hand, there's a couple different things we look at. The first is the style of grip you choose. Now, it really comes down to understanding the cause and effect here. So I know I run into a lot of clients where they've had guys suggest different options for grip. When I was a younger coach, I didn't like to play with somebody's grip because I didn't understand the cause and effect. Now that I've been doing it for long enough, I understand the exact cause and effect that allow you to create more balance and more control overall and a better spiral in general. So the first thing we're looking at is creating the most balance. So putting your middle finger down the seam of the ball, the back of the ball with your non-dominant hand, creates a north and south pull from the top of the ball to the bottom of the ball. That's going to give you basically a north and south pull through that globe. So as you throw, you're creating a 2-finger versus 2-finger release. So it's really helpful to make that happen. If I were to go to like a split grip, basically I have 1 finger finishing against 2 fingers. If I go to an index grip, this hand will always leave first, so I'm going to have 0 versus 2. There's really no wrong way to grip the ball. So I have a lot of guys, and even taught myself how to snap with every one of these grips. You can make it happen, you can throw a good spiral. What will change though is the finish. As a snapper, we want the hands to finish outwards and be mirrored images. If you start balanced, you can end balanced. If you start unbalanced with your pressure, your style, anything like that, you're going to end unbalanced and your hands are not going to be symmetrical or mirrored. So that's where the biggest difference comes into play. And while it might not be the end of the world, your snapper still might throw a good ball. What we're looking to find is that the more we can create that mirrored image, the more body control, the more consistency in general that we can create, the better we can drive that ball flat and straight to the target.